Hey, welcome to Storytime with Ellie podcast, and I am your host, Ellie. Today's guest, we will be speaking with Nicole Guliano from the law firm, Guliano Law Firm in Orlando, Florida. Let's welcome Nicole.
Thank you, Ellie. Thank you so much for
Hey,
having me.
how you
Glad
doing?
to be here.
I'm glad you were able to come here today to talk with us about your law firm, and we're going to cover a few things. We're even going to talk about real estate and the difference between Central Florida and South Florida. And before we dive into that, just a little bit about Nicole. I met her at the West Orange County Orange Chamber of Commerce. And it was interesting because everybody was there talking. And I love the chamber because I think it's a great meeting place for us, or anybody, just to meet up and collaborate and find out who everybody is and work together and talk about our businesses.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed my time. I've been there with them for about a year now.
Okay, yeah, me too, actually. Yeah. But it's fun. You go and you meet people, and that's how I met you.
Exactly. I always say, like, I used to network a lot with other lawyers,
Mm-hmm.
but it's so much more fun networking with business people because the lawyers, it's like there's your competition in the room. I want to talk to
Absolutely.
business people, like people that are actually doing things, building things, changing things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd rather help those people than talk with my colleagues.
And I think we have more to talk about too, because I
Yeah.
have the same thing with real estate, right?
Mhm.
They'll have these real estate events where they want all the realtors to get together, and I'm probably going to get beat up for this, but no. But it's like, you don't mind a little bit going, but why do we want to hang out all the time with other realtors?
Right.
I mean, you get to, you know everybody, but we don't need to hang out all the time in all these groups. I like the
It's
mix.
nice sometimes, like you want to see what
Yeah.
other people are doing,
Businesses,
and you wanna,
yeah, totally.
and you want to talk shop sometimes.
Mhm.
But then at the same time, like I love, like my whole thing about my job as a litigator. Some of it we'll talk about it more. I know we're gonna get into it, but like I hate this like search and destroy lifestyle.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I want to create. Like I want to help people build. I want to like make
Yes.
things, not just be in court.
Mm-hmm.
Killing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
totally.
That's what it feels
Yeah.
like sometimes.
Yeah, it's stressful. Very
Yeah,
stressful for
yeah.
you. Totally. A lot of stuff you got going on. But let's just, so what made you want to become a lawyer? What was the
Um,
drive behind that? If you
you
want to
know,
share that with us, what inspired you?
I was a weird kind of kid. I was a nerdy kid and I decided very young. I don't remember what it was, if I just watched like too much Night Court or what it was. Like I used to
People's
like
Court?
that. I used to like People's Court. I used to like Night Court. I remember, you remember Emilio Estevez was a lawyer in the Mighty Ducks. Like I thought that was really cool.
Wait.
He was in that movie. He was like
No, you're the lawyer. I'm
the
not.
hockey
I wasn't
coach.
watching it.
Well,
I
no,
was
that wasn't part of the plot. But
No,
I was
I
like
was
a little kid watching that, being like, "Oh, that's really cool." And so I went into a magnet program actually
Oh, wow.
for pre-law when I was 11 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I was doing like mock trial and debate and like all that stuff at a very young age and stuck with it through high school. I went to UCF for college. I got kind of burnt out on the law. I became a business major after. Then I switched back. I was poli-sci pre-law with history minor. And then I just went full for it. I went to UM for law school
Okay.
down in Miami. I don't know. I was drawn to the law, I think, because I had kind of a crazy childhood. And I think that I sensed that the law was a way that you could like put order into the world. Like there was a sense
Yeah.
of justice and fairness, and there should be fairness, and there should be a way to do these things. And in school, through mock trial and debate and all that, I found my voice because I had been a very shy kid. I was like mute
Okay.
when I was little.
So you were shy growing up.
So shy, and when I started talking, and people were like, "Oh, you're pretty good when you talk, like you're okay, and I was like, oh, look at me, like I have, because I never felt like, the prettiest or the most athletic or that, and I was like, oh, but I could talk, okay, like let me do
Obviously
this then.
smart,
So
too.
I'll use this, and then I just went for it, so I went to law school. I became, what happened is I was doing really well in law school, and I did the whole fancy summer internship and worked for the big firm. And then the economy tanked. It was 2008. I graduated 2009. And
Oh, wow.
so the law firm that I had interned for didn't make any offers to the summer class. Like we all thought we were going to get these amazing
Oh, yeah,
jobs.
sure. That's what you do. That's why you do internship.
And so I panicked, and I had also been interning in Miami for a nonprofit. And so I went to work for a nonprofit, which was actually the best thing that could have happened for me. I wasn't making the big money anymore. It wasn't glamorous. I was representing people in the projects, like low-income housing, Section 8, all that good stuff. But I was in court almost every day. And I learned, and I had to handle a caseload on my own as a baby lawyer. I mean, I had supervisors and I had that, but it was great because it was a nonprofit. And so we all kind of had that sense of like, let's help out.
Yeah,
like, let's help
totally.
each other. We would think tank a lot of the cases if we had a problem. And that really, like I said, I'm thankful for it because it cut my teeth. I knew all the judges then. I had been in court. Today, I honestly, I tell people this, they don't believe me. I feel more comfortable in court than other places.
Because it was the volume of being in court. The constant
it became
repetitiveness.
boring
Yes.
to me. Where it became so scary for everyone else. You put me in a courtroom and I'm like, yeah, whatever. I live here. What do you want? Like, judge you,
Yeah,
like,
totally. I get it. Yeah.
And so that happened. But then after a few years of that, I got really emotionally burnt out on that. It was just so sad. Like most of my clients were elderly or had mental health issues. A lot of sad stories. But I was doing good work. My husband got in my ear at the time and was like, you're such a good lawyer. You're doing so well. You could make more money. You could do more things. And so I quit there and I went to a big law firm. And that only lasted like 2 years. Cause I don't know. I'm not a yes man, I wasn't cut out for that. It was always like this is how we do things and here's 3,000 cases and just bill away and just bill. And I mean, I'm all for making, I'm a businesswoman myself. I'm all for making money, but I could not see just billing for the sake of billing and having so many cases that I didn't even know what was going on. I mean, I had an army of paralegals.
Oh, wow.
And it was interesting. I like that I've now had all these different experiences in the law, but it wasn't for me. I didn't like it. And so I was there. And what's funny is when I was a nonprofit lawyer, I had this idea that these private law firms, these big law firms, these lawyers was such a higher echelon of work, like they were so great. And then I got there and I was like, you guys aren't like I know some more brilliant lawyers that make way less money than you. And so I was like, you guys are charging people a lot of money to do subpar work. I could charge people a little bit less.
Wow.
And do better work. And I wouldn't have 3,000 cases. I could have 30 cases.
See?
And so I said I could do it. It gave me the inspiration to set out on my own, which I don't think I would have had otherwise. And so after 2 years there, I said, I'm out of here. And I founded my firm in 2014. So this year will be 10 years.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, in December it'll be 10 years.
Yeah, the stigmatism on lawyers, you broke that stigmatism. A lot of people, right, when you think about lawyers, you always think of all the, oh my God,
bill,
a lawyer,
bill,
right?
bill,
yeah, bill,
money,
bill.
money.
And here, right, you come in.
I mean,
with,
like I said, I am a businesswoman.
Of course,
I'm not here for charity.
But you have a little bit of, remorse, or not remorse, but a little bit of.
No, I do, because, I think that I make more money, or I'll call it happier money.
Happier money.
My clients trusting me.
Yeah, you get more bees with honey, too.
Because I could charge them more and draw out their case
Niceness.
and do all that. But when my clients trust me and they're happy clients, I get referrals. I get
Good to hear that.
business,
Yeah, nice to hear that.
And I make more money that way, or at least, like I said, happier money that
Yes,
way.
I get that. I totally understand.
And happier money is where it's at for me in my life right now. I can't,
Interesting, yeah.
I would rather be, middle of the road as a lawyer financially than making the big bucks and not
because you still have to live with
my kid.
You still have to live with yourself.
Yes, exactly.
And look in the mirror every day.
Exactly. And I can do that. I can also, and I can fire clients when they're not on board with that.
Yeah.
They want to just,
Very nice to hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you fire a client? Well,
you tell them I'm not going to work with you anymore. It depends. It depends on what's going on. For if they want you to do something unethical, you say,
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I'm not the lawyer to do that for you. Or you counsel them, first you counsel them, you give them a few chances. I've had clients ask me to do crazy things. I had a client.
Well, they might not know, right? So let's give them that.
Sure,
saying, well,
that's fine.
They don't know the law, so you're going to educate them now on the law. And if they decide they don't want to listen to you, that's when you fire them.
Right. Well, happy to.
There you go, Phil.
Totally happy to educate the client, talk to them, give them options. Of course, it's not always my way. If they can participate in the strategy, and I've had to take strategical turns that maybe I wouldn't have chosen first, but okay, that's your case, it's your life, it's your business. But then I've had clients, for like, some guy told me once, like, he really wanted me to do something that I was like, that's not legal, and he was like, I pay you to do what I to do what I want you to do. And I was like, well, guess what, you don't have to pay me anymore at all. Goodbye.
Not worth it.
There's no shortage of lawyers out there. Find somebody who'll do it for you.
It's not you.
And then once in a while now, thankfully, like, my business is thriving enough that now if a client is just too annoying, I fire them gently. I say, what happened is I lived in South Florida. My practice, the firm was founded in South Florida, but we relocated to Orlando 5 years ago now, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
5 years ago now. So that's why I was saying, like, practicing down there is a lot different than practicing here. But a lot of my clients, by virtue of Zoom and everything that's going on now, are still in South Florida. Like more than half of my clients are in South Florida still, which is wonderful that I can still serve them.
Oh, yes.
But now that's like one of my things. Like, yo, you're too annoying. Like, go find a local lawyer. This is getting too.
And it probably depends on what it is too, right? That you're working on for them.
Oh, totally. Because a lot of the judges are bringing us back in now. It's not all Zoom anymore. Like, I have to be at a status conference in Fort Lauderdale.
New York's everything's still in Zoom in New York.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, mostly. Most of the judges like Zoom too. Everybody likes Zoom.
Yeah, I know somebody has a case right now. Last week they were in court, and she kept saying on the camera, I go, what do you mean the camera? Yeah. She's like, oh yeah, we're in Zoom. I'm like, what? You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
I think he was probably home in his pajamas. Oh.
They all are now. That's what's great. Everyone only gets dressed for court from the waist up.
That's what I was saying.
Sorry,
when she told me, you guys are still there. Wow.
But then you have to remember, if you stand up, you see like those viral videos where people like stand up. I'm usually in my yoga pants, dressed, from the waist up.
That would be a good niche, right? Stand up.
Yeah.
Show them what else you're wearing or not wearing.
Or not wearing, exactly.
So you're a lawyer, obviously. Now, real estate?
Yeah, so my specialty is real estate.
That's right.
So like I said, I had worked for the public defender in law school, and I had a taste for criminal law just because of the trial work and being in court, and, like I said, justice and all that good stuff. But when I took that nonprofit job, I got pulled back into real estate, landlord tenant,
correct,
that kind of thing. And so I had cut my teeth that way. I know, not to toot my own horn, but because I was in the trenches defending like the poorest of the poor, I knew every trick to beat every landlord.
Yeah, but you got knowledge that you couldn't get in college, really.
Right.
No matter what law school you went to, you weren't going to get what you learned on the outside.
Right.
You got great experience.
Right. So as a tenants attorney, I learned like every trick in the book, and now I mostly represent landlords because I'm in private practice. And so now I think I'm a much more effective landlord attorney.
Yeah, good for you.
By virtue of having had that, I've seen everything. I literally, because I was in court every day and saw every wacky, strange set of circumstances, it really prepared me for, I don't shock easily anymore.
Yeah, you heard everything. Oh my God. Wow. So litigation and mediation.
Oh, right.
You do both?
So what happens is I've been a litigator my whole career, mostly real estate litigation. So my practice now is landlord tenant, collections. I do a lot of condo and HOA work.
Okay.
And then I also do various other types of real estate litigation. My clients are flippers, investors, landlords, sometimes management companies or other things, condos and HOAs. And I was doing that for a long time. And one, you get a little burnt out on it. Like I said, the fight of it. But also, mediation is something that's usually court ordered. You go, people seen it like on TV, like you usually see it in the family context. Like you gotta like mediate a divorce. But you go into mediation hoping that you can compromise and settle. And what was happening to me a lot of times was I was approaching mediators who didn't speak my language, like didn't speak real estate law.
Oh, yes.
And I was getting really frustrated because we were spending a lot of time educating the mediator just so that we could have an effective mediation.
Yeah, so it spent more time doing that. You must do it yourself.
Well, exactly.
That's like anything,
Just
though.
the same way I left the law firm, I
Yes.
was like, I could do this. I'm going to do this.
Yeah, you might as well.
Right. And so I went, I got
Smart
certified.
move.
I'm county circuit and family certified as a mediator by the Florida Supreme Court.
Good for you.
So I can mediate pretty much almost, there's also appellate and there's a few other divisions, but I can mediate most cases. And now I get called in to do that as well. I really enjoy that work. I hate to say more than, for
Well, that's
any of my
okay. You can
clients
say it. That's
listening
what you
too,
do,
but
right?
I love mediating
was gonna-
because that resolves the problem usually. Well, not always, but it helps work people towards a resolution. And that tends to, what I'm seeing in litigation these days, and I think it's always been this way, but it's worse now because of inflation. Litigation is so expensive, and clients don't understand. They're like, yeah, let's go, let's fight, let's do it. And I'm like, $50,000.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you're looking at.
Yeah,
like,
you tell them the number, it'll
and
slow
you
them
tell-
down.
And then maybe they're fighting over
Yeah.
$25,000, and I'm like, and it's not because of me. My
Right.
rates are low.
Yeah.
It's because just the nature of the beast, the court reporters, the trials transcripts, everything. I had a trial a few years ago where the trial transcripts, when we appealed, were $10,000 just to get the transcripts printed to send to the appellate court, which you have to do to
gosh.
appeal. So that is kind of just like the price of entrance these days, and people don't understand that. And so people are spending so much money litigating and so much time. It's so slow because the courts are so clogged that it doesn't make sense. It's keeping properties unoccupied, vacant. It's keeping businesses not moving on with their lives or tying up a bunch of money in litigation where they could be using that money to like get a new space or reinvest in their employees. And so it was really frustrating me. And I was like, let me in, let me in, let me smack some sense into people a little bit.
So then, so the litigation comes from when you have clients that there's a dispute over properties.
Yeah, it depends on the context. So like landlord-tenant, you can guess, like mostly
Yeah.
evictions or different types of I do commercial and residential
Okay.
landlord-tenant. So you'll see, anywhere from like a little, like you didn't pay your rent for a month.
Okay,
or you'll
this
see
is
like
what
a restaurant getting evicted or something like that
Okay,
too.
wow.
I've
Okay.
represented landlords and tenants in that context. But then I also have other things like I do quiet titles. Like you'll get like one of your clients might buy something and it's got a junk lien on it from the thing, or you got someone squatting on it from who knows when.
Oh, wow.
I've seen even
Wow.
adverse possession. People are like, oh, adverse possession. Like when someone squats on your property and then says they own it. Like I've seen it.
Squatters' rights.
Right, and so I've litigated all of those.
That
things.
really exists?
Yeah.
Do you see a lot of that?
No.
I was gonna say, it
because
seemed like something
it's
so long
really
ago.
hard to pull off.
Yeah.
You have to pay the taxes. So that means the owner has to forget to pay the taxes.
For how many years? Right. So, I mean,
Like 7 or something, it depends
Yeah.
on the local statute. Some counties have like a form you can fill out and record. And then but I had one. I had a property that the person there was trying to change title, and they went and they recorded all the stuff. We had to go undo it. It was a whole mess.
Wow. Yeah, you
My
wouldn't
other
think-
quiet titles are more like I said, like you'll get something at the tax deed sale. You'll need to
right. So you want to make sure it's all clean.
Right,
And you
need
got to
to
go through
clean
all that
just-
stuff. I
those,
got it.
Those are not as
Yeah.
sexy, as
Yeah.
litigation.
Not as
but,
fun. Not as exciting.
Right, but they're not as contentious. And then I have because like I said, because I network with all these business people and stuff, I have some just run-of-the-mill commercial litigation too, like businesses collecting from other businesses. You didn't pay my invoice, or
Got
you
you.
did
Yeah.
something bad to me. I have I have some of those suits because of my nature and like the real estate thing. Sometimes my personal injury attorney friends or my the like plaintiffs attorneys will call me in and say, we want to sue a condo association. We don't know, can we bring me in as co-counsel, or we want to do this, can we do this? And I've even done some class action work.
Okay.
So Yeah, I mean, that's fun. I mean, litigation can be good. I mean, we need to be able to adjudicate our rights. We need to be able to use the courts if we have to.
Right.
But I'm for mediation, like I said, because the reality of it is that it's so expensive and so time consuming that if there is any room to compromise, and there usually is.
So then mediation would take place obviously before the litigation, but when do you say,
I'm not sure I understand.
how do you, oh, my phone.
Your phone's participating.
That's so funny. Wow, we're talking. So you have the mediation.
Right.
When does that come into play? When do you know to step
Yeah.
in?
It depends. Well, I don't always, I can't step in as the mediator. I'm a neutral. So the parties hire me. They have to hire me. There's different contexts. So you could be court ordered to mediation. You could be already,
Okay.
most judges, if you're in litigation, 99% of the time are going to send you to mediation before trial because they don't want to deal with it. They're like, go figure it out.
You have to thresh it out, figure it out
Right,
before
go
you get to me.
figure- Go see
Go
if
figure
you
it
can
out.
figure it out.
Yeah.
So,
I get it.
if you're already in litigation, you're gonna come to mediation at least once, court ordered probably. The judge may order them to mediate with me. I'm on certain wheels, or certain judges know me. They may send them to me, but more likely the lawyers confer and exchange 3 names, and I'm on there, or someone that's suggested. And then the other context is there's pre-suit mediation, which could be by statute or by volunteering, the parties volunteering to do it, or by contract even. So like, for instance, if you want to sue your HOA in Florida, there's mandatory pre-suit mediation, which means that you can't sue them. I mean, you can, but it'll get thrown out pretty quickly.
Wow.
If you don't mediate first, or if you don't at least attempt to mediate first. And the reason for that is because the legislature doesn't want people suing their neighbors and their HOA or about your fence post.
Well, I was going to say, actually, the courts would be triple amount what's going on if
Oh my
everyone
God.
could sue their HOA. Because,
million
I mean, I could tell you a story.
I know everyone.
I think I have 2.
I know when people. I sometimes I don't advertise.
I
that
know,
I'm an
don't.
association attorney
Yeah.
because everyone's got the story. And trust
Oh
me,
my
I got
God,
a
that's
lot
my
of
motto.
stories.
That's my tagline. Everyone has a story.
Well, there it is. There it is. 'Cause
Yeah.
everyone's got a story about their HOA.
Oh, my goodness.
I tell you, I got some stories, but yeah. So like that, or you might have a contract. You might have a business contract that says you have to mediate before you can sue, and then they would call me in. And then I've been starting to encourage people like at our like networking kind of things too, to consider voluntary mediation over anything.
Well,
Like there's no rule. Like it's the only rules are that I have to abide by the Florida Supreme Court's rules. So it has to be confidential, meaning what happens in mediation stays in mediation.
right, exactly.
You can't be like, she said that she would do this. You know?
No, totally.
And that, there's some other rules about, participating and who can participate and what I can disclose, if anything. I mean, I really can't disclose anything unless you're going to, kill somebody, or a child's going to be injured. It's all confidential. But so I've been telling people, if you have a dispute, any dispute with your neighbor, with an employee, with whomever, consider hiring a professional neutral.
Right. And it's like a therapist, right? You're going to go to a therapist. You're going to get that opinion, a non-biased opinion, same with mediation. And then you can, hash it out with them.
Right.
And you're the one, and I'm sure it's much cheaper to go with a mediator than it is to go with your lawyer, though, too.
Well,
And in some
they
cases,
may or may not have a
in
lawyer.
some cases, yeah.
They may or may not have their lawyer at mediation.
I know with divorce cases, they recommend you to use a mediator to try to
absolutely, because
try to get through some of that.
The point is if you can solve it at mediation, it
Yeah.
ends right there.
Yeah.
That day or the next day, whenever you drop the agreement. But it's way cheaper, obviously, if you can settle. But also, so like my hourly rate for mediation is the same as my litigation rate, but the parties are splitting my rate. So they're sharing my fee. And hopefully, I'm working them towards a resolution that's going to save them thousands of dollars.
Right.
But I did want to mention something you said, just to clarify, like about what we do in mediation. Like I actually, and this is hard for me, I can't give my opinion in a mediation. I can't play the judge. I'm an arbitrator too, I should mention. So I can be an arbitrator, which is a paid-for judge. meaning sometimes parties have to go into arbitration, which is private court, basically.
Okay.
So parties will hire me as an arbitrator sometimes, and I will actually issue an opinion, like a judge.
Right.
And then they have the choice to challenge that to a judge or not. That looks and walks a lot more like court. In mediation, I mean, I can give my opinion a little bit, but I have to remain a neutral. And so more likely what I'm doing is, you get the parties together, you give them the spiel, they give their spiels. Then most of the time you separate them. And then I become this kind of channel between them. And I go into the one room and honestly, I listen and I counsel them a little bit, and then I not counsel, but I, talk it over. What do you want? What's your best day in court? What's your worst day in court? It's just a little bit of reality checking, get people in, I start asking the lawyers, how much is this going to cost? So that the parties can hear it. Because sometimes their lawyer hasn't had that conversation.
Oh, exactly. I agree.
Okay, so you want $1 million. Okay, how much is it going to cost to get them $1 million? Whatever. Or what is the likelihood that they're going to actually win $1 million?
Well, and I'm going to be honest, many times, I'm going to say the lawyers do not clarify or explain. They don't want to.
They don't want to.
Because they want to keep running. It's like to change it. They want to keep running it up. They don't want to try to settle. I've known, I don't want to say it, but I've known lawyers that actually fuel the fire.
Absolutely. I know a lot of them. And I don't want to sound holier than thou.
No, but listen.
That to me is against our ethical pledge as lawyers. We all take an oath not to litigate for the sake of litigating. So we have a certain, we have candor to the court. We have a duty to our clients. We're not supposed to advance positions that are against the law, or antithetical to the law, or not in, I won't want to say public policy, because you could advance an interest, but you're not supposed to, it's not always, kumbaya, the greatest good. We're not that far bound, but it is supposed to be in line with public policy and your party's best interest. And so your client's best interest sometimes, a lot of times, is not to go to trial or something like that. But then so as a mediator, because I can't go in a room and say your case sucks. I could, but you're not really supposed to go. I'm not supposed to go in and be like, do you know that statute blah 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 says blah blah blah? You're wrong.
Right. You can't be like a mom.
But you're trained as a mediator,
right?
And you learn through experience to do, like what I said, that little bit of reality checking and asking questions. Like I said, I'll start asking the lawyers questions in front of the parties, and then what I'll do is I'll go back and then I'll go to the other room. Okay, they want this. And they'll go, they're crazy. They're never going to get that. And I'll go, okay, what do you want? We want this. Okay. And then I'll figure out, is there any room that I might be able to bring them somewhere, somewhere closer?
That's what I was going to ask. You said you're not allowed to form an opinion.
Well, I can form one. I can't share it necessarily.
But you can't share it, right? Let's reword that. Yeah, you could form it, but you can't share it. Because then right away it becomes you're on somebody's side. So yeah, I get that.
Right.
But meanwhile, that would cut out so much if they would listen to you.
Well, you can share.
A little bit, maybe, no?
Because then what I do is I become the bad guy in the room to both rooms. Then I'm going into both rooms and I'm beating them up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, I don't know, and I'll start asking the lawyers, do you know Judge Jones? Does Judge Jones award those kind of fees? Like something like that, or do you? And I'll start saying, well, you could do that. You could litigate this till you're blue in the face, but it's going to cost more than you want. And or I'll be like, you're really worked up about this. Like, is it affecting your life? How much time is this taking up? And I tell people, and I wholeheartedly believe this. I used to tell my clients this all the time. If it's making you sick every day, the other side already won. Like I can't make you unsick anymore.
That's a good way to put it.
If you're sick to your stomach thinking about your case every day you wake up, get rid of it.
Well,
get out.
Well, that's always the way. I always say that, be done.
Right.
Because I deal with a lot of people too with cases. And we're actually talking now, we kind of switched, we're talking about real estate a little bit. Yeah. But now I think we kind of shifted a little bit more into say, do you do divorce cases?
I am family certified.
Family
I usually get called in when there's a real estate dispute because of my background.
Right. Well, that makes sense. Couples are divorcing the house. They got to figure out what they're going to do with the house.
Lately, I've had a lot of partitions, which are divorces where the people aren't married. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, yeah,
we
sure.
co-own the house,
Yeah.
but we were never married, and now we're breaking up. And those are honestly messier than divorces, but we mediate those, of course, because we want to see. Because what happens is if you co-own a house and you can't agree, it's Solomon. It's King Solomon. He's going to cut that house in half for you. You're going to go to court. They're going to sell the house.
Yeah, usually I was
auction
going to sell it. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen it happen. I've seen a judge just with, like, I've seen siblings squabbling. Like, mom and dad die, siblings inherit the property. They can't decide what to do. Sister wants to live in it. Brother wants to sell it. Sister can't afford it. Blah, 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 blah. And then the judges will say, okay, well, I'm going to appoint 3 realtors, or maybe we're going to get this real. We're going to list it. And then they still can't agree. We can't agree on the listing price. We can't agree on the showings.
On the realtor.
And the judge will go, okay, we're going to sell it on the auction steps, and you're going to live with whatever happens.
Yeah.
You know, and it happens. There
Has to come to an end.
Right.
You need a conclusion.
People will fight forever and ever.
Oh, yeah.
And it'll kill them, honestly.
Yeah.
It'll kill them. It'll kill their health, and it'll empty their pockets. And then what do they have to live for? You know, maybe they'll get a judgment that says your brother owes you $1 million. It's a piece of paper that says your brother owes you $1 million.
So meanwhile, when it's over with, I'm sure they're extremely happy. Because anytime something's over like that, you're like, oh, what a relief.
Well,
you don't realize getting drugged through the mud.
They should be relieved. We always say as mediators, though, because people are usually, by the time we actually come to a settlement in a mediation, people are usually like, they're usually a little unhappy. Because they went that day hoping they would get what they wanted. And if they're settling, they're probably not getting everything.
That's why it's called settle.
Because you're right. It's a compromise, right? Yeah. So we always say, like, a good settlement is one where both parties are a little disappointed. You know, both parties are.
That's true.
Feel that way, yeah. Because it means they came to the middle.
Now, do you family do you do anything with children or anything involved with that?
I mean, if I was called in on a family case, not quite so often. I mean, I saw a lot of problems with kids, like when I was in public interest work, a lot. You know, that were sad or that kind of thing. But I mean, as a mediator, I mean, that breaks my heart when you see people just fighting and the kids fighting over kids. Of it.
You know, I'm going to ask, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to answer it. When it comes to a divorce and children in the state of Florida, because I know it's different every state, isn't it usually split custody, unless one parent shows maybe negligence?
There's an assumption of it. You know, there's an assumption that it's going to be 50-50, but we call it time sharing. The parents, when you get a divorce, if there are minor children, you're required to propose a parenting plan. And so each side proposes their parenting plan. Maybe mom wants full custody, maybe dad wants full custody. The underlying rule and policy of the Florida courts is the best interest of the child. That's what we always go back to. What is the best interest of the child? And if it's a really messy case, you may need a child psychologist. You may need more than one child psychologist. You may need a family counselor. There's this other thing that's really hot for the last few years. It's called collaborative divorce, where it's a new style where you can, it's basically like mediating the entire divorce, but the participants have to be certified as collaborative participants. So it's a collaborative mediator and 2 collaborative attorneys, and maybe even a collaborative CPA or a collaborative, like,
oh my goodness,
collaborative specialty now. But the idea is that we're not going to fight. We're going to meet in a positive, you know, working towards a resolution. And what actually happens is if they start to fight, everyone gets fired. The lawyers can't continue as the lawyers anymore. So if
that's because they're not keeping it tame.
Exactly, because the idea is, and this is voluntary, of course, nobody has to do this, but it's a certain style it's starting to pick up speed, and I like it. Of course, I'm for it. That because of the children.
Oh yeah, I agree.
These divorces should not be so ugly. Like, it's not that complicated. You know, it's how often, where are the kids going to sleep? How many nights are they sleeping at dad's house? How many nights are they sleeping at mom's house? And then you do the math. How much money does dad make? How much money does mom make? And it's a formula, honestly. We plug it all in and it spits out child support. It spits out, what needs to happen. But I would say to your original question that, yeah, there is a presumption of 50-50, but both parties propose it. And if they can't agree, they go through mediation.
Yeah,
they go
because
through the
usually
whole process. And if they can't agree, and I see it all the time, I have a friend going to trial next week, actually. They go to trial, and they have a trial with a judge and witnesses and evidence and the whole thing. And then the judge decides. And that's what I always tell people as a mediator to remember too. Do you want to participate in the decision as the party? Do you two that are fighting, do you want to be a participant in this process and part of the person who decides what happens to your kid? Or do you want a judge that you never met before, who doesn't know you and your family, who's never met your kid? You do want that person deciding where your kid sleeps at night? No, I don't.
No, and it's a lot of it's just, I've done coaching as well with, I wrote a book, I think I was telling you that. And some of the clients that I had over the years, some were good, some actually would get along, and they would agree. And in fact, one couple, actually, the kids stayed in the house, and the couple had an apartment. And they would leave.
I've heard of that. That's like a new thing. They call it nesting.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's like the bachelor pad, and the parents split off.
Yes, and that's what they did for a while. But at least the kids were able to stay in the home.
I think it's great.
It's a little hard for the parents.
It's a little funky, because then could you imagine?
Well, they actually had 2 different apartments. They didn't stay.
Yeah, if you could have, they could afford. If you could afford 2 different apartments, that would be the way to go. Because I was gonna say, could you imagine come in, it's like the Airbnb, and your ex-husband's stuff is there.
No, and it doesn't make good for a relationship when you go out and find someone new, and there's your your ex-husband's clothing on the floor, and always
you want your pictures, you want your stuff. But I think it is a good
that's what they did.
If you can afford it, I think it's a great temporary solution for until the kids are older.
Well, that's what they did, and they rented. They didn't even buy other homes. They just rented. The kids were, I think, they were 12 and 14 at the time. Yeah. Whatever they did, but it because the house had the pool, and they the couple got along, but it was just they don't want to be married anymore.
I mean, I know divorced couples that live together still, even that just kind of.
Oh, my ex-husband just flew down from New York today. Yeah, we just went to my granddaughter's dance recital, and he went and bought food for dinner. I says, "No, I got to go do a podcast." But we get along. You wonder why? You wonder why we divorced, but we know why. But just.
Yeah, but it's good that for the family that you can still
that's what came first
like
for us,
family.
was our family.
Exactly.
Regardless of what went on between us, we always put the family first. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
It should be.
The way some of that takes place.
Yeah.
And so what else can we wrap it around here with? What else you can tell us a little bit about
what's going on right now?
Your law firm? Do you have anything else you want to talk about the law firm, or?
Well, the law firm's been through some change. I mean, like I said, we've been operating for 10 years. I went from, my office in Fort Lauderdale to now my office in downtown Orlando. So that's been a whole change. But I still have my clients down there. My husband actually joined the law firm for a few years.
Oh, wow.
He's a lawyer too.
Oh, I never asked about your husband.
Yeah, well, so he's a lawyer too. He was we met when I was taking the bar. And he was a practicing lawyer in Miami already. And so he was making big money and working for a good firm in Miami. But he is from Orlando and always wanted to move back up here. Well, he's originally from Brazil, my husband, but he grew up here in Orlando. And so his family's here. He always wanted to move back. I resisted it because I had gone to UCF. And I only remembered my college days of UCF. I only knew UCF and Disney.
Oh, totally.
So I was like,
it's so different now, right?
I don't want Orlando.
Yeah, it's different now.
It's totally different.
I think we talked about that.
I I love Orlando now.
Yeah,
I love
me too.
living in.
How funny.
I live in West Orlando. I love it. Ocoee Winter Garden, all of that. Claremont is just like that's my vibe. But
it's so funny. We talked about that on the phone when we first met, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how
because South Florida too,
right? Because I'm originally from South Florida as well as New York, right? And that's what we discussed. And
I'm Jersey by Fort Lauderdale to Orlando,
right? So we both were saying how when we the thought of Central Florida, I was like, oh God, no, I would never be there.
I resisted it for a long time. And then we had a kid, and I was just a control freak. I was literally trying to run my law firm with my kid with a baby on my lap. I had some bad postpartum, and I just did not want to give up control of him, but I also didn't want to give up control of my firm.
Right.
They were both my babies.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I need some help. And my family's a little younger. They're still working and stuff, but my in-laws were retired. And so my husband kept saying, like, we could go. And I said, okay, quit your job. Let's go to Orlando. I'm doing okay. We'll move the firm. You join the firm.
Okay, sounds good.
And so we did that for a few years. It was hard because my husband joined the firm. He had always been the breadwinner in our relationship, and suddenly, because he quit his job and went into private practice, he'd had some clients that he got, thankfully, but suddenly it changed the whole dynamic of our relationship. I temporarily became the breadwinner.
Yes, totally. I can understand
which was a whole thing. And then COVID hit too. So that was, and we had a little baby, we had a toddler and COVID, and then we're working together. We're working at home. It was a lot.
You almost needed a mediator.
Right. We needed a mediator. Well, we were just always, everyone was with their spouse during COVID.
We know.
So everyone was like stuck inside, but that was rough. And then he started to pick up some steam, but my husband, more than anyone, really just did not enjoy litigation anymore. And especially he used to do these big high-end cases that you could staff them and you could bill anything you wanted, and you just work for really wealthy clients in Miami. And then now to transition to working from yourself and, working for like smaller cases and not as sexy, but, honest work. It was just a big transition for him. And he was like, maybe it's just litigation that I don't like. And so my husband works for the government now, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, he works for the state of Florida, which he enjoys much more that way. And it was good for us. We actually still both work from home most of the time.
Right.
I don't spend a lot of time in the office.
But it would have to be rough being together in the same firm. I mean, like,
it was
working on cases, you can
and because he hadn't worked for himself before, I mean, we weren't working on the same cases all the time, but we tried a case. We did a 5-day jury trial together, side by side. And our clients were husband and wife too. So it was just a hilarious kind of,
yes.
And it was crazy because opposing counsel was another fiery lawyer, a fiery female lawyer, I should say. And she and I were just like, rah, 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 the whole trial. And Doug finally gets up for his, presentation, and the judge is like, oh, thank you for joining us. I thought the girls were just going to have a day.
It's funny. Yeah. That's funny.
But so, it was too much for us. Now he's enjoying that lifestyle much more. And I honestly, I wasn't his boss, but it felt that way sometimes. And I didn't like that dynamic either. You don't want to you tell your husband what to do all day. Like I'm already telling him where to put the towels.
I was gonna say, don't you usually do that anyway?
It's exhausting.
You had a double way.
Right, but I don't want to do it at work.
That doesn't make for a happy marriage.
No, absolutely not.
I did work with my ex-husband.
Did you? So
that's
that.
Yeah, that's probably
It's too much.
Well, he worked for me actually.
Right, then you know. Then you know exactly. It screws everything
now he's
up.
Yeah. No, it's not cool. Yep. But so anything else you'd like to discuss before we wrap this up?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, we could just talk about everything. I mean, there's a lot of things.
What's going on with you?
Oh, turning this around.
Why not? I don't know. Maybe it'll jog something.
Wait.
She's doing the lawyer thing.
Yes, she is.
Yeah, I mean,
wait, what do we? Wait. Is this an interrogation?
You want me to cross-examine you?
Yeah, is this an interrogation?
It could be.
Wait, what's going on with me? Oh, I don't know. Just me.
You got any legal problems? You want me to go on the fly?
Wait a minute.
Console?
Yes, we can talk about that.
Well, maybe we can talk about that quietly.
No. Actually, no, I don't really. I usually do. I usually stomp them out before we get there. No.
Yeah, good.
No, yeah. I mean, things always creep up, but somehow, yeah.
You seeing anything crazy I'm seeing some crazy things in the real estate market right now. Because of the crazy prices in Florida right now, because there's so much money in the market. So I do a lot of foreclosure work.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And now there's this weird thing that's happening. It's not weird, but it's different because everything is so valuable, you know, at least people think it's valuable. People will bid on anything at a foreclosure auction now. So at a foreclosure auction, the property goes up for sale at auction. It's an online auction in Florida most of the time. You're bidding usually sight unseen. Like maybe you could run title, you could swing by, but you're not going to get in there and do an inspection. And you're bidding cash.
Right.
No financing.
Yeah, I know. That always scared me.
People are plunking down. You know, it used to be like, okay, I'm going to buy up that condo for 50 grand. Maybe it's a good deal, or I'm going to buy this, whatever. People plunking down. I have clients that plunk down $1 million on a property sight unseen because it's in Miami and someone else from New York is going to buy it. But what's weird now is I'm seeing people buy things just so they can, like, they'll buy it at like an HOA sale, for instance, which won't get you clear title because there's a mortgage on it. So there's a priority of liens. So the mortgage foreclosure, the first mortgage foreclosure is the best one to buy at. The tax deed sale is the best one to buy at because that'll get you clean title. But then the first mortgage foreclosure is the next best one because they'll wipe out the HOA, the condo, most liens, not a tax lien, but most liens, because they have priority of lien. Right. Exactly. So they foreclose everybody below them out. So if you buy at a first mortgage sale, you buy it probably mostly clean. But if you buy at the HOA sale, for instance, there might be a mortgage on that property. Right. So you might have just bought a property at auction with a mortgage on it.
It's good to know. It's a good thing to
Well, it's good for people to know because a lot of people are trying to get in the market, but there's so much money in the market. It's too competitive for newbies. I really don't suggest that people bid anymore without legal counsel because or running title at least have someone. Everyone can run title these days. Like have someone run title just so you know what you're bidding on. But what they'll do now, because the market is so crazy, is they'll buy at the HOA sale. So let's say it goes to auction, but the HOA is only owed like $10,000, right? So it'll go up, and the opening bid will be $10,000, and maybe they'll buy it for it'll still be competitive. They'll buy it for $35,000, let's say, with a mortgage on it though. So now they just bought this property and it's got a mortgage on it. They don't care. They will actually rent it out if they can, and then wait for the mortgage foreclosure, because when the mortgage foreclosure comes, there's going to be a surplus. So this is what I call it now. There's this whole side quest of surplus fishers now, or surplus hunters, or whatever you want to call them, that because when you foreclose, if there's a surplus, meaning more money was bid than the judgment. So the bank or the HOA or whomever, the creditor is owed X amount. Right. If you bid more than that, the owner gets the surplus, the extra. Because the idea is, well, the property's sold and they owed that money, but now that money's paid.
Yeah, they have to pay off that, and then they keep the remainder. Yeah.
And the junior lien holders can get the surplus too, but so people will buy at the junior sale, hold title, just to get that surplus, because now they're the owner. It doesn't matter that they're not the mortgage holder. You see, I know this is a little complicated. I know for like maybe some of your listeners that aren't like in the market as much, but it's happening and it's weird because it's creating all this extra litigation now. People fighting over the surplus. There didn't used to be surplus.
Well, it's because of them not, like you said, they don't know. Right?
They don't know. Well,
they don't. I mean, there's a lot of loophole. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of moving parts.
Right. Well, in the old days, you would almost never have a surplus in a mortgage foreclosure because the bank would have hit interest, penalties, everything on top of that. And now you've got, a $400,000 property with a $500,000 judgment on it. And so there'd never be a surplus because nobody's going to bid more than $500 on a $400,000 property. But now you've got the banks going to judgment. They'll get a $600,000 judgment in Miami because that's an old mortgage from 10, 20 years ago. But that is a $2 million property in today's time. Yeah. So people will bid 1.5, and whoever holds title on that day gets the surplus. Interesting. Gets the leftover. There's a whole market for it now. Wow. Yeah, and it's getting kind of crazy because I'm seeing people strategically buy now. You're getting people.
I mean, you got to know what you're doing. You really have to.
It's a little scary.
Yeah, I was never really. I'm not like that. I'm not an. I can only invest in what I know. Yeah. Like if I know it's a piece of property that I know the value of the property and it's something I want for something I need,
then I'll buy it.
Right.
Run it, do it, and then maybe flip it down the line. I'm not.
Right.
I can never get into that. I mean, I wouldn't know how to really.
It's scary because, well, and from
Well, the first is
from your
usually more than
industry
one
too.
investor. There's usually groups of people.
Absolutely. Well, yeah,
So,
that's what's
I'm
happening
thinking-
is
yeah.
one guy's pooling 10 guys'
Absolutely.
money.
And then I
is
see that
usually
with a
what's
lot of
happening.
things now. It's just groups
Right.
that are all putting their money in.
Right, so you can't compete against them because
Right,
they have all the
right.
cash in the world. But also, from your practice too, everything's happening so fast. You don't even have time
Right.
to
That's why
inspect or do anything or do your due diligence that you normally would, because people are just throwing cash around. People
I
are
know.
coming
I
from
never
up
seen so much
north.
cash. A couple of years ago, and oh my God, in 21,
Everything is cash.
I was cash is king. Oh my God, everyone had cash.
Well, and it's really
It was a strange. It was
sad.
like, where was it coming from? I think they took it out of the bank when everything happened with COVID.
Well, a lot of it, that too. Well, a lot of it is from overseas. It's international money.
Yeah,
It's coming over.
that's how I bought the place I'm in now. They were
Yeah.
people that bought that were from the UK originally had built it.
Yeah.
A bunch of those townhouses in there.
We're seeing, here
And then
in
they
Orlando.
sold it all. They sold it.
Right. Here in Orlando, we have a huge Brazilian American population, like my husband and them. So you see a lot of Brazilian money coming in because their economy is horrible right now. They don't have the buying power because their economy is horrible right now. A lot of Chinese money, a lot of Eastern European money coming in, a lot of those buyers. And then, since COVID, everyone moved to Florida too. So a lot of people from out of town are coming in. But it's sad because it's almost impossible right now for the first-time home buyer, to get anything that they want that they would actually be worth putting their FHA mortgage on because everything's so crazy. But I don't think it can last at this rate for much longer. But then I've continuously been surprised by what the market's been doing. So
Nobody can really predict it. I mean, I see things all the time. People will say, I know right now the commercial side is down.
Right, because people aren't in the office.
Yeah.
They're not going out as much.
Well, New York is changing all that too.
yeah.
They're making people go back into the office. So I'm not going to get into that now, but I just
Yeah.
heard that earlier today. I was talking to some people about that. They're actually making them
Maybe because
come
the
back.
real estate.
Oh yeah,
my
totally.
God.
Yeah, the commercial is horrible right now. What's going on that?
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I remember downtown Orlando during COVID, and even like the 2021 and 2022, like it was just a ghost town downtown Orlando. I actually heard anecdotally, this is kind of a strange thing that you don't think about, but the homeless population suffered a lot because there was no one to panhandle to. There
Yeah.
was no lunch crowd anymore. We don't think of these things, but
No.
we're all connected that way.
Wow. Yeah. No, I know. Well, time. Wait for the bell to go off.
It's all good.
I know. We're going to do this again.
No, it's enjoyable.
I
love
want to
it.
thank you
for having me.
for coming on to the podcast. A lot to say. It was pretty good. I enjoyed talking with you. I think you shared a lot of knowledge with our listeners,
Thank you
and
so much.
good for you.
It
So
was
I
my
want to
pleasure.
thank Nicole Guliano for coming on to the podcast, and that is the Guliano Law Firm in Orlando, Florida. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you so much, Ellie.
Now, before you guys get out of here, make sure you visit our website at storytimewithellie.com. Every episode is up there. The YouTube channel is linked. You can find blogs. You can find all that fun stuff. So until next time, we will see you
Everyone has a
guys
story. What's yours?
later.
Yay! Thank you so
Yay.
much. That was fun.